Of all the tools and tips and tricks that I've learned over the years of my life, one stands above them all. That's writing. Now, I don't know if it's like really the number one most important thing in my life, but I think writing has helped me learn more about the world around me and myself. It's provided the most expressive sort of expression of myself. I guess let me word that better. It's allowed me to express myself in the truest and closest way to what I'm thinking. I also find that it's the easiest way for me to convey stories. It's also something that I find helps me sit down and think through what's actually happening in my life and happening on the day to day. It's the best way to take a brief moment to pause and think through what it is you're going to say. One of the reasons that I'm doing this type of like speaking for 10 minutes straight type of series is because it's starting to help me think the way that I would when I am writing, but more instantly so that I can speak with more clarity about things that are like formulating in my brain, right? It's like the reduction in that distance between thought to like expression. Essentially, I found that writing is the most concise way that I can express myself and my thoughts, and being able to write both well from the standard of like English language arts in school and like storytelling in general, but also writing in a way of like in a decent way of expressing the way that I feel has helped me learn more about myself and the world at large. I think I might have just said that. But essentially, I want to break this down into two, maybe three components. The first is how I felt about writing back when I was in school, and how I like have grown to change about my views on writing. And then two, the ways that I use it to like tell stories or write scripts or figure out narratives in my like, the marketing side of whatever I do on the day to day. And then the third is like the personal, most impactful, which is like journaling and just writing things down as they come up in my brain. So let's start from the top, right? I didn't like writing as a kid because in school they'd force you to sit down and write about things you didn't care about, or they'd force you to learn these like structured ways of expressing yourself and putting words onto pages, and they'd grade you for things that are like completely arbitrary. I still think about rules that I learned that aren't necessary, like grammar rules. I'm trying to think about it right now. Don't make sense. They always say don't start sentences with but. That shit doesn't matter. Start sentences with but. Write the way you want to. There are some rules to grammar that I like, that I enjoy, that I think make sense, like periods, punctuations, that type of stuff. Obviously, that makes sense. I remember disliking learning about gerunds. Like, I still don't know what a gerund is. But also, I'm getting too technical about it. Now, this is just going to become another rant about school. But ultimately, writing the way it's taught in school is very rigid, and I think it, in the moment, made me hate what I was doing. It was only afterwards where I realized that type of rigidity and that type of structure is only a baseline. It's to get you to understand what writing at its like writing at its most technical is. It's like technical writing is, I feel like, what we're taught in school. But it's only with that foundation of technical writing that I found the freedom to explore writing as a medium of its own. But the way I write is it's very much like a stream of consciousness. I don't really do too much editing. I do like going back and like putting words together in interesting ways, but for all the blog posts I've written and for anything that I've written for myself or for the public eye to read, it's mostly just me like blabbering and then like editing it once or twice and then putting it out there. I've realized that writing doesn't need to be this meticulous, precise instrument all the time, even though when it is, it's significantly more helpful for the reader. But I guess most of the time when I write, it's mostly for myself, which we'll get to more later on. But essentially, the writing that I learned in school, although was way too technical, really did lay the foundations for my own personal writing. And then it's also it really did improve the way that I approach writing and storytelling and framing like stories in general in my life to come, which is where I guess I use that skill a lot more nowadays with when I'm writing scripts or when I'm preparing things for like the Urban Indian, where we're telling stories, or when I need to draft proposals. That aspect of it, I think the way that words were taught to me in school leads directly into my own personal enjoyment of it. Let me phrase this better. Words were taught to me when I was young. No, I was taught at school that words are supposed to be these rigid ways of like, organizing thoughts and following the set of rules to convey something, to persuade people, to educate people, to entertain people. When in reality, what I've learned is you can distill all of those rules. You can sort of like break them all if you don't care about those rules. And you can write for whatever you want to, because writing is actually an expression of the self. It's not necessarily this thing that everyone's going to grade you on, because most people aren't graded on their writing when they're older. Yeah, anyway, so once I made that connection and once I started writing for myself, I realized, oh, I can write for more things. For example, if we're about to go to a shoot or something and we need to have a sort of script that people would say, or if I need to have some one area that I really appreciate my writing skills that I've gotten from school, and then also my sort of like breaking of the rules that I learned in school, is if I'm writing like investor reports, or if I'm writing something that it should typically be boring and structured and like really formal. I like putting my own sort of creating spin onto it. So I'll write investor reports with a little bit more dramaticism and a little bit more adventure and storytelling. Basically, like, the rigidity of school has allowed me to break that rigidity down and reapproach the art, the craft of writing from a more holistic storyteller's perspective, that has made me fall in love with writing. And that's like part 1 and 2 of what I wanted to discuss. That's like, they're interlinked. Maybe I haven't really done the due diligence of like diving into what it is about writing that was so rigid and not rigid now, but I just know that like I give credit to that rigidity that I used to hate, because it has made me a stronger writer. And because I am a stronger writer and because I'm good at writing, it has helped me find the love of writing in different ways. Because when you love something, you tend to do it more and you tend to do it better. Or when you're good at something, you tend to do it enough to where you fall in love with it. Like that type of psychology. Either way, those are the first 2 parts of it. I hope that was concise enough for like comprehension. I don't know. I think I blabbered a lot. But I guess this third thing I want to talk about specifically is about how journaling and how, I guess, writing anything that I'm thinking has helped me clear my brain. It's been very meditative for the past, I don't know, like 8, 9 years of my life. Like I've been journaling for almost 10 years, and maybe it's not always like a diary where it's like, oh, these are my emotions that I'm feeling every day. But it's a lot of the times it's like when I am thinking through things, I like writing them down. So then I can look at them on the page, and then the words will look back at me, and I feel like they're going back into my brain. And if they were in my brain and they're on the paper, they'll stay on the paper. And then when they come back to the forefront of like when they're going back in my brain, I feel like I'm remembering them deeper. So I guess that's like too many different things at once. One, for emotional parsing and for understanding my thoughts and feelings, writing is extremely helpful. Writing down your emotions, writing down your thoughts will always help you break them down deeper. I would urge anyone who is thinking too much or is too much in their brain to just grab a paper and pencil and just write things down. What you'll find is as you stream of consciousness, let those thoughts flow onto the paper, you end up having a different relationship with yourself. Like over time, you start seeing those words as like simultaneously separate from yourself, but also like yourself. Honestly, I didn't even put it together right now, but I think that there's like something where it's like there's a concept in Hinduism where it's like there's like the self, and then like there's the experiencer, and then there's like a observer or something like that. I'm still not super clear on that, but maybe writing helps sort of like split your feelings and make you understand like, okay, these are just not fully what you're experiencing. Dang, okay, this is going to be a whole other rabbit hole. I'll save it for another talk. But essentially, writing things down helps you really understand how you feel, and then also like address how you feel, and think through them at a deeper level. The emotional benefit and the emotional understanding that you get from writing is next to none. I would highly urge everyone to write down their feelings and write down their thoughts, because it helps you see things at a different level, and it helps you understand yourself at a very different level. To this day, I'll write down things. If my brain is like feeling too heavy with thoughts and feelings, I'll write them down and I'll like address them and analyze them and see where things can change, see where things can get better. But that's like writing for the emotional sake. I also write a lot for like ideas sake. Recently I've been really compulsive about it, where it's like, if I have an idea in my brain that I really like, or that I need to put down somewhere, I'll have to write it down on paper, or sometimes I'll use my like Apple Notes app. I'll have to write it down, because writing it down makes me feel like I'm remembering it better. Which is really interesting. Maybe that's like more of a crutch. Maybe it's more of a crutch than it's actually like helping me. But that is one way that I tend to approach writing. It's this way of like second braining. Speaking of second braining, I'm gonna have a whole other video about how I went through like Evernote, Notion, and like finally landed on Apple Notes, and like all these different. And now I'm not even using Apple Notes, and I'm just like using like a journal app or something, you know. And that second brain concept, where you're like putting things from your brain down somewhere, that's super. That's been one of the biggest habits that I've picked up that has changed my life. It's helped me stay organized and like stay on top of my stuff. Neither here nor there. Essentially, the writing part of it, being able to put words onto paper and then have them look back at you, is bar none one of the most impactful things that I have ever done for myself. I would highly recommend for anyone who is trying to get a better grasp or a better understanding of what they're thinking, to try giving writing a shot. I also want to talk real quickly about how it's a creative expression. So like, if you're finding it hard to like go out and do something creative, sometimes I never write like fiction, nonfiction, free form in that way. But a lot of the time I guess the only way that I really do creative writing as like an expression of myself is if I'm doing like a blog post where I need to add a little bit more whimsy or a little bit more story. So I guess maybe I don't have much to say on like creative writing or like free writing in a creative sense, or like a nonfiction sense. Maybe I just use writing as this way to break down and parse through what I'm feeling and thinking. I don't necessarily know if it's. I don't know. I love writing. I think it's great. I think it's like, words are one of the best ways to like communicate. Words are one of the best ways to put things down and have an understanding of them. Maybe I just wanted to talk a little bit about writing today. Maybe I don't really have much more to say about. There's one thing I wanted to say. So AI, right? Obviously, like I talked a little bit earlier about how AI writing is garbage. AI writing is garbage. Like there's no, it's soulless. Like that's obvious. But there's one thing that I've like started to do with AI that I think is like a little bit helpful from time to time, especially if like I don't have like the time or the capacity or the energy to type things out on my phone. I'll like brain dump. I'll speak to like Claude, or so, like sometimes voice memo, sometimes my journal app, and I'll take those transcripts and I'll like I'll sometimes like have like an AI parse through that and sort of like bounce back some ideas that are like hidden in what I'm saying. It's very similar to where I'd like write down in a journal and look at it and then like try to think on it and have those ideas pop back in my brain. Sometimes I'll do that with like a voice note dump. If I'm like really erratic and like thinking about a lot of different things, I'll just like brain dump to AI and have it spew things back, which is like, it feels like a shortcut for the some of the beneficial processes of writing that I do, which is why I don't do it as often anymore, because I find that if I write it down and then I make the effort to make the connections in my brain, they'll stick longer. And AI isn't, I like I had been saying for a while, like AI isn't really the best way to have things stick in your brain. But yeah, that's kind of this yap is very interesting because it's not really like a planned one, right? Like I don't go into these going like, this is exactly what I need to say and these are the points that I need to hit. I just felt the urge to talk about writing. I would highly recommend any of you to write. I think it's healing. I think it's creative. I think it's mathematical, which is so cool. I think it's like a puzzle sometimes. I think it helps articulate, like it'll help you it'll help you articulate things and articulate thoughts better. But ultimately, I think it is maybe my favorite thing that I've gotten from school, and favorite thing from like the education in the schooling system is my ability to write. So very grateful for that. And I think it is also a pretty big impact in like the way I speak. If I think writing helps people speak better. I feel like I'm a bit more clear and a bit more concise with my words because of writing. And yeah, maybe this Yap session was just me recommending writing to you. So go out there and write. You'll enjoy it. Till next time.